The barrier has fallen. For 5 long years, the powers that be, the global banking cartel, drew a line in the sand. That line was $50. They defended it with everything they had. They threw billions in paper contracts at it. They raised margin requirements until retail investors bled out. They used media blackouts to keep the public asleep. But 3 days ago, on December 6th, 2025, that line didn't just break, it evaporated. Silver crossed $59. As I speak to you today, Tuesday, December 9th, we are witnessing an event that hasn't occurred in 45 years. We are watching true price discovery. The mainstream financial press, they are confused. They are panicking. They're telling you this is a speculative overshoot. They're begging you to take profits because the RSI is overbought. They scream that $59 is expensive. They are wrong. $59 isn't the top. $59 is the floor. Because what JP Morgan won't tell you, and what the charts don't show, is that the mechanism keeping silver cheap wasn't just paper manipulation. It was a physical buffer, a stockpile. But that stockpile is gone. Let's look at the numbers. I've run the math, and frankly, it is terrifying. Since 2021, the world has consumed 1.1 billion ounces more than it has mined. Let that number sink in. 1.1 billion. That is equivalent to erasing every single silver mine in Mexico, Peru, and China for an entire year. It's gone, burned up in solar panels, buried in landfills, locked in private vaults in Mumbai. That 1.1 billion ounce buffer was the slush fund. The banks used to fill the gaps and suppress the price. But as of this month, the slush fund is empty. For most of the 2010s, we had a surplus. Miners dug it up, we used it, and the leftovers sat in London and New York. That kept prices boring. Then came 2021, the year the world changed. 2021, the deficit starts. 2022, a deficit of 237.7 million ounces. 2023, another 140 million. 2024, it widened to 215 million. 2025, we just burned through another 200 million. When you add the investment drain, the silver pulled out of ETFs, and the LBMA, the real number is over 1.1 billion. The global mining industry only produces about 830 million ounces a year. We have been short more than a full year's production over the last 5 years. We have been cannibalizing our savings account to pay our daily bills. And now, the account balance is zero. Now, the skeptics, I hear them. They say, at $60, demand will crash. Solar manufacturers will switch to copper. This is the single biggest lie on Wall Street right now. And I'm going to destroy it with one word, TopCon. For years, the industry used PERC technology. It used about 10 milligrams of silver per watt. But PERC hit an efficiency wall. In 2023 and 2024, the entire global manufacturing base shifted to TopCon and HJT cells. TopCon doesn't use 10 milligrams, it uses 13. HJT uses 22. We are moving toward more silver, not less. Why not copper, you ask? Because copper rusts, it oxidizes. When you sell a solar farm with a 25-year warranty, you cannot use a metal that corrodes in 5 years. You need silver. Here's the economics of the solar vortex. Let's say a panel costs $200. At $25 silver, the metal costs $15. At today's price of $59, that silver costs roughly $35. Does the manufacturer stop? No. They just raised the panel price to $220. A 100% increase in silver price only increases the final product cost by 10%. This is called inelastic demand. Samsung, First Solar, Tesla, they aren't looking at the price chart. They are looking at production schedules, and they are terrified. They are buying at any price. If you want to know who won this game, don't look at Wall Street. Look at India. While Western investors were dumping SLV and panic selling in 2023, India was draining the West. Look at February 2024, a date that will go down in history. In that single month, India imported 2,295 metric tons of silver. That is roughly 73 million ounces. Let me put that in perspective. The U.S. Mint produces 20 million silver eagles a year. India bought nearly 4 years of total U.S. mint production in 28 days. The Indian whales saw the deficit coming. They knew the solar factories in Gujarat needed paste. They bought the bottom at 22. They bought at 24. They cleaned out the London vaults while the LBMA was asleep at the wheel. And now that silver is $59, will they sell? No. In India, silver is wealth. It has been turned into jewelry, anklets, silverware, or consumed in electronics. It has left the free float. The West sold its insurance policy to the East for pennies on the dollar. And now, to get it back, the West has to pay $60, $80, maybe $100. So what happens next? We enter the vacuum. In technical analysis, resistance is created by bag holders waiting to sell to break even. But who bought silver at $65? Who bought at $85? Nobody. There's no overhead supply. There are no sellers waiting above us. Post. This is a blue sky breakout. First, the shorts cover. The hedge funds must buy to survive. Second, the FOMO. The retail public sees $60 on the news and rushes in. Third, and most importantly, industry panic. When Apple and Samsung realize the 1.1 billion ounce buffer is gone, they stop buying just in time. They start buying just in case. They hoard. Hoarding creates scarcity. Scarcity creates higher prices. It is a feedback loop from hell for the banks and heaven for us. My target? $100. Why? Because adjusted for inflation from 1980, the real high is $170. At $59, silver is still historically cheap. $100 is not a 2030 target, it is a 2026 target. The 1.1 billion ounce deficit wasn't an accident. It was a transfer of wealth, from the impatient to the patient, from the paper believers to the physical realists. For 5 years, the data was screaming. The Silver Institute reports were public. The LBMA drain was public. Everyone had the chance to buy at $25, but they listened to the TV. Now the buffer is gone. If you're watching this and you still hold paper silver, unallocated accounts, or pool allocated schemes, you are standing in a burning building hoping the insurance company is solvent. Get the metal, if you can still find it. Because the 1.1 billion ounces that vanished are never coming back. The squeeze isn't coming. The squeeze is here. I'll see you at $100.